Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Diane. Today we have a 15-year survivor, Diane O'Connor. Thank you for joining me today. 15-year survivor of ovarian cancer, which is the deadliest GYN cancers out there. And you are a testimony that it isn't all doom and gloom. And you also are an advocate. And later on in the show, we're going to be talking with Dr. Cynthia Bai, who is a naturopathic physician and an expert in GYN cancers as well. So Diane, thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, talk about your journey. Start at the beginning, because what happened to you set you on a path from here to Washington, D.C. to be an advocate for teaching doctors, students, and the general public about the most important part of this cancer. So tell me about how it started for you.
Well, I was 57. I was very healthy. I was training to do Cycle Oregon, a week-long cycling trip, and at that time, I just retired from my public education position, and I was having all these symptoms. At the time, I didn't know what they were for, and I thought, oh, this postmenopause stuff. Frequent urination, urgent urination, a lot of bloating, which I could tell in my bike shorts, not feeling very full when I ate.
And those are things that women experience, and maybe some men too, throughout their life.
Right.
For a variety of different reasons. Something you ate, you have a virus.
Right.
So
it can be a symptom of many things,
yes,
especially women and bloating. The trick with ovarian cancer is if these go on and it's unusual for you, for your body, then you want to have that checked out.
And when you say on and on, like what length of time?
Oh, more than 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the time, I just thought it was postmenopause. And
well, I did go to a GYN one time and said I was bloated. It was a male doctor, not saying anything about male doctors. Maybe he wasn't familiar with bloating, but he says, I can't help that. So you are here to say.
Then you become your own advocate.
And see another doctor, get another opinion.
You do, absolutely. I give little symptom cards to my friends and take them to their doctor next time. Rule it out is our mantra. So long story short, about 6-7 months of these symptoms, I did go to my primary care doctor, and she said, you know, it sounds like you have irritable bowel. So she prescribed a med. I did not do a pelvic exam. Fortunately, a couple weeks later, I had my annual gynecologic exam. And
did the whatever she gave you, did it help?
No, it didn't help at all.
Okay.
And when I went for my gynecologic exam, she palpated a large grapefruit-sized growth. Thought maybe it was a fibroid, but said, let's do a transvaginal ultrasound. That's one of the diagnostic tools. And I'm going to have you do a blood test called the CA-125 blood test, which isn't a screening tool.
It's not a screening tool for ovarian cancer, but it can pick up some markers, as they say.
It is not, it's only 75% accurate. It can have false positives and false negatives. We don't have a screening tool for ovarian cancer. So long story short on that, it came back.
That's a question for the doctor I'm going to ask.
Long story short, it was a suspicious growth. I met with a gynecologic oncologist, and those are the people, these fabulous doctors, specialists whom you want to do surgery if you have any gynecologic cancer.
Go to a specialist.
Specialists, they have 4 more years beyond their OB/GYN residency.
But let me back up. You had a grapefruit-sized growth.
Yeah.
And you had just started to have symptoms?
I had symptoms about 6 months before, but I thought they were just postmenopause.
So they weren't serious enough to take you to the doctor.
No.
So I guess the point is the symptoms are vague, so listen to your body, right?
Absolutely. Trust your gut, as it were. In hindsight, I feel very ignorant. But again, I just chalked it up to being a woman and being a postmenopausal woman, and oh, this too shall pass. So,
well, women go through a lot of changes throughout their life.
Absolutely.
You know, that give you all sorts of symptoms that come and go, or maybe stay and change. Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a whining woman saying, oh, I feel bloated. So that's why I didn't go. My gynecologist called me the same day, and she said, the ultrasound shows something suspicious. I have an appointment with you with a gynecologic oncologist on Monday. Go. And I did, and I met my new best friend, and she said I can do surgery Wednesday or Thursday. This was a Monday.
So this must have been like an out-of-body experience. I mean, in
It
your
was-
mind, you're healthy one day
it was
with
crazy.
some symptoms,
It was
and then
crazy.
and then you're at stage what?
Well, I didn't know till the surgery was done.
Okay.
The surgery was done 3 days later. It was stage 3C. Most of us, about 80% of us, are diagnosed in stage 3 or 4. Unlike a lot of other cancers. So I was totally
Which
shocked.
leads into, which you're going to lead into in a second,
Yeah.
your advocacy work
Yes.
for teaching. I love that. We're going to go into that. Go
Students,
ahead.
Right.
Mhm.
So what happened was, after that, go through the shock of the surgery. 3 weeks later, you start chemotherapy. And during that time, a friend of mine called and said, there's this great ovarian cancer conference annually in Washington, D.C. Why don't you come? And I thought, oh, yuck, get on a plane. I feel horrible. And well, I went, and that changed my life. It was an epiphany. Fabulous doctors, speakers, researchers, 300 other women with ovarian cancer. And I thought, this is going to be my second career. I'm going to do something.
Wow. And you're still in treatment yourself, but right now this is your journey.
This was going to happen,
Yeah.
Whether I lived long or not, it was going to happen.
Okay.
And one of the things that we started was a survivor teaching students program, which is now in 90 plus med schools throughout the country. We didn't start that part. It was through the Ovarian Cancer National Alliance. And for 12 years, a group of us have been speaking to third-year med students up at OHSU on signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer from the patient perspective.
And actually, I did go to one of those with you. I don't know if you
did.
remember.
I do remember.
But I can tell you, the med students, some of the women med students were crying.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
the male med students were kind of like, really? It was almost like there was, I could tell, a distinct difference between genders for how they were listening and how they were reacting and responding, which stuck with me. I think that really stuck with me, particularly if I layer on the fact that I had a male GYN who thought my bloating was a complaint.
Yes.
A female complaint.
Exactly.
Right,
And so our mantra with our med school students, our nursing school students, and our naturopath students, when we speak to them, is put this on your back burner. Have these symptoms on your back burner. Connect our stories, connect them with the disease, and rule it out. Do a transvaginal ultrasound, a CA-125, and a thorough pelvic exam. Rule it out. It's too deadly of a disease not to rule out.
Because it is, like we said, the number one. And aren't there some other statistics about how many women get it, what the age groups are?
Yeah, about 22,000 women a year in our country are diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
That's significant.
And 1 in 70 is approximately 1 in 70. And about the 5-year survival rate for women in stage 3 or 4, which is most of us, is below 40%. So I've been very, very fortunate.
Wow.
I have 15 years. I have not recurred. So often, about 80% of the time, ovarian cancer recurs. and then
Regardless of what
recurs again.
stage?
Well, the earlier the stage, no. If you're fortunate enough to be diagnosed in stage 1, your chances of recurrence are quite small.
And this isn't just for women who are maybe in their 50s or
No,
postmenopausal.
absolutely
I mean,
not.
I saw, and you have I want to get to that too. You have a
Yes.
Trust Your Gut campaign.
Yes.
And in there you have pictures of superhero women.
Yes.
That lady's buff, I can tell you that right
Yeah.
now. But some of look at the ages. There's a 30-year-old and a 24-year-old.
Absolutely.
So this isn't just restricted to later on in
Postmenopausal
life.
women. It
Right.
used to be called the silent disease of postmenopausal women, and most women die. That was a long time ago. Now we have the common symptoms that are publicized, and if you think of it as a bell-shaped curve, the median is up around 60-ish in terms of age, but we have, like Jasmine, one of our superheroes, diagnosed at age 24. One of the med students they spoke to some years ago had been diagnosed at 17 with a very rare kind. So bell-shaped curve again. You're never too young and you're never too old.
Got it. Wow. That is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, what kind of advocacy work are you doing, and let us know if there's anything that is on the books, perhaps, and maybe this is a question for the doctor, on the books for in the near future for some kind of a definitive diagnostic tool, or is that sort of an impossibility?
Screening tool. We keep getting closer to a screening tool.
Okay.
It has to be so accurate because it's a major, major surgery.
Right.
And it's not like, we can't do a biopsy. The laparotomy is a huge, I call it my stem to stern surgery. And so you want to be have a lot of faith in any screening tool you would have. In other words, you don't want to just go in and do this major surgery unless you're pretty darn sure it's ovarian cancer. So there's a lot of progress being made, but it's a very difficult one. And there are different kinds of ovarian cancer too.
Okay, wow.
So,
yeah, that's a lot of information for
I
folks.
know.
But the good news is, let's go to your website.
Yeah.
And it's Ovarian Cancer Alliance?
Yeah, we are a community partner of the National Ovarian Cancer Research Fund Alliance. And we are the Ovarian Cancer Alliance of Oregon and Southwest Washington. And our website is ovariancancerosw.org.
Okay, so people can go there.
Absolutely.
Look at the signs and symptoms, pass it around to your friends and family, because obviously early detection is key. Diane O'Connor, thank you so much for joining me today, and I just wish you all the best in the future for doing your great work, and congratulations.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
We will be right back, and when we come back, Dr. Cynthia Nye and I will be talking about some of the genetic predispositions and what people can do if they do in fact get cancer to help support them through treatment. You're watching Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Diane. We'll be right back.
Judson Roy is a full-service interior design, staging, and furniture establishment. Located in the heart of Canby, Judson Roy is your complete decorating solution. Whether you're in need of furnishing a new home, updating your decor, or staging a house to sell, Judson Roy will assist you with their experienced sales and decorating staff. Be sure to look at their website, judsonroy.com.
And we're back with Inspired Conversations. I'm with Dr. Cynthia Bai. She is a naturopathic physician with a Journey to Wellness clinic, and you also have credentials in GYN oncology, which is rare for a physician. So tell me what that is.
Well, actually, I have credentials in naturopathic oncology. I'm a fellow of the American Board of Naturopathic Oncology. I did a residency at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, so my practice focuses probably 80% on oncology patients of all types.
And you have a pretty robust practice, so the good news is people are finding you.
Right.
Okay, so people might not know. They go to their medical doctor for the diagnosis. They're diagnosed with, today we're talking about ovarian cancer. Maybe they don't know why it would be a good idea to come to a naturopathic physician. So it's for help. So tell us what you do.
Okay, so when a patient comes to me, I go through a three-phased approach. First of all, we're all making cancer cells every day of our lives. The question is, why do some go beyond the few that the body can take care of? So I do a full review of systems, head to toe, start identifying things that are working or not working, and I do see some common threads. Get the body to work better. That's phase one.
Okay, I want to stop you right there. So regardless of whether you have cancer or not, I just heard you say, and I don't think I found a silver lining in there, we're always making cancer cells.
Right.
So you take a look at what's going on in the body to see how you can support the system so perhaps the cancer doesn't have its way with us?
Right. And try to identify some contributing factors or some real common threads that I see, not in all, but a fairly large percentage of my cancer patients. And it starts with diet. The standard American diet is not a healthy diet.
Right.
Even those that have excellent diets, I get into the digestive piece, and they have typically digestive symptoms. And so we do want to shore up the ability, because we are not what we eat, we are what we digest. If you don't digest, you're irritating the bowel, and you're going into what we call leaky gut, increasing the inflammation in the body. And what I tell my patients is inflammation is the cause of all disease.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that was one of my you're sitting, those of us that are constantly on social media, we'll see a headline come up. Cancer is a fungus. Cancer is a allergy. Cancer is inflammation.
Yeah.
So, and you say,
Well, to me, cancer is a multifactorial disease. There's not one thing that causes cancer. It's a perfect storm of multiple things that come together. I'm reading a good book now called The Emperor of All Maladies, which is it's a tome on the research of history of cancer. And I highlight every time in my Kindle, every time he says chronic inflammation.
oh, and there's a lot of that.
It's a very common thread that I see.
Chronic inflammation.
Yeah, chronic
Okay.
inflammation.
Okay.
So my job in the first visit is to ferret out what is causing that chronic inflammation. It could be food allergies, it could be digestion, it could be many things, but I want to go through and see what's working and what's not.
So there are things that we can do, because I was talking to your 15-year patient, Diane O'Connor, who has had ovarian cancer, and the BRCA1 genetic mutation. People say, well, that gives you an X percentage chance of getting. But what I love about your practice and the type of medicine you do is that we do have choices, and the choices are up to us. They're not big choices that we have to have a lot of money to do. It's about lifestyle.
Well, you don't get the choice of your genes.
Right.
Okay? Your parents give you your genes, but we're now into epigenetics, and epigenetics is all about what your environment can do to turn on and off genes. And there is a higher propensity with the BRCA1 gene, the BRCA1 gene, that will increase your probability of getting certain types of cancers. What we're trying to do, especially in the first visit, is identify things that we can do and I can empower my patient to do to help themselves.
And I just love that, because people think, well, if I have the gene, or if my XYZ, my grandmother or my mother had that disease, there's a good chance I'll get it, so what can I do? That's not true. What is true is if you eat the right things and the balance. I mean, you can tell us what the balance is.
So there's many things that can be done, but it is an unfortunate roll of the dice that you got the gene. Okay. So, but let's try to do some things to decrease the expression of that gene.
Okay.
So.
And what are some of those things?
Well, like I said, the diet is a big, huge component to that. With a 65% carbohydrate diet of the standard American diet, our blood sugar's high. We're overweight. In our belly fat, we have an enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. Estrogen drives many cancers. Our blood sugar's high, then the insulin.
For men and women?
For both.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Could
what
you
is
say
estrogen?
that again?
Yeah. So when we have excess belly fat, we have an enzyme in that belly fat that converts testosterone to estrogen. And what does estrogen do? It makes things grow. Okay.
Like babies.
Like babies,
Got
like
it.
endometrial lining, those types of things. So, like breasts. So I want to look at the weight. When the blood sugar's up, the insulin's up. When the insulin's up, the insulin growth factors are up. There's many things that go into the milieu and the perfect storm that allows those cancer patients to go together. There's Dr. William Lee has done a lot of research on developing blood vessels to tumors. He does a nice talk, TED Talk, and he quotes in there, when we look at people in car accidents, 40% of women, when we look at their pathology and their cells, have multiple microtumors in their breasts between age 40 and 50, 50% of men between 50 and 60, but only 12% of women are getting diagnosed with breast cancer. So what's the difference between those that do progress and those that do not?
Okay.
And part of it is a microtumor is the size of the end of the pen. In order for it to get bigger than that, you have to grow blood vessels. Okay, well, what drives that, what's called angiogenesis, is inflammation. When you get a cut, you have to grow blood vessels to heal the wound. What's on either side of the cut? Red, inflammation.
Okay, so inflammation. So what are some inflammatory foods?
Okay, so high red meat diet is inflammatory. High sugar diet and carbohydrate diet, because it increases insulin, and insulin's one of the most inflammatory things in your body. Some of the anti-inflammatory things you want to do is get back to how we're designed to eat. We're actually designed, when they look back 40,000 years ago, to eat 75% fat, 5% carbs, and 20% proteins. And it makes sense to me that those who survived from feast and famine days would be the people who ate 9 calorie per gram fats versus the 4 calorie per gram proteins and carbs. Who's going to survive? The one that ate the highest calorie food.
Is that now the paleo diet is a high fat diet? I've heard.
It's
I
a
don't know
higher
for sure.
fat diet, yes.
Okay.
And so paleo eats a lot of fruit, which I don't think we had 40,000 years ago. We didn't come upon an orchard. We didn't have orchards, you know. So when my patients get confused, what should I say? Pick up the food and say, did the cave people eat this? We were by water, we ate fish and crawdads and frogs, we were maybe some grass-fed animals, but we didn't have fishing poles and guns. Those are hard to come by.
Right.
We had a lot of plant food, we know that because we have fat teeth, and we don't have the stomach acid to digest a lot of protein, even in our prime.
Wow.
So our diet, and Dr. Walls is a internist who has worked with high-fat diet on her own MS, and in 1 year went from a wheelchair to riding her bike.
Wow.
By providing the body with the raw materials that it's designed to eat. All right, so then the people go, oh, what is that? Well, it's avocado and coconut milk and coconut oil and nut butters and seed butters, all of those healthy things, and fat doesn't go to sugar. Okay, it doesn't.
I think we were sold a bill of goods on that. Or no, I think the advertising messed us up. Explain
fat
that.
is bad for you.
Yes.
That was back in the 70s, and what they've said, there was a great article in the New York Times not too long ago. The sugar industry kind of pushed that data saying fat causes heart disease.
Oh.
Fat
so
does
you
not.
so you would continue buying M&Ms.
Perhaps.
And now
I don't want to
M&Ms
make
are
any
going-
conjectures here.
M&Ms are now going lower sugar, by the way.
Yeah. Well, great. So
Because it's popular.
back in the 70s, yeah, well, anytime you mess with Mother Nature and you make trans fats and eat way too much
Yes,
saturated
wow,
fats,
right.
yeah, you get heart disease from that.
Right.
But you know, one of the biggest contributors to heart disease is high insulin. Irritating the arteries, and then you start to get swollen lining, blood sleeps into the muscle, and all of a sudden the bells and whistles go, leaky pipe, bring me a clot and bring me some cholesterol to shore up the pipe.
And cancer can grow.
And then you get heart disease, but yes, and then of course with all the sugars and stuff, we are increasing insulin and insulin-like growth factors.
So now people, let's go back to the ovarian cancer patient,
Yep.
and they're they're getting chemotherapy and or radiation or both and surgery. And so how do you support patients that have cancer, and why do they need to continue coming to you?
Right. So that's phase 2 of what I do.
Okay.
We do ovarian cancer specific things, we do chemo specific things, and we do radiation specific things. And these are all things that do have research. Now, they're not going to have a phase 3 double-blind crossover placebo $850 million study, because no one's going to pay for looking at curcuminoids for anti-inflammatory. But
Unless they can monetize it.
exactly. And so, and that's business. I'm not cynical about that.
I
That's
am.
how our world works.
Right.
And so, but what I use, almost everything I use has human studies on it.
Okay.
All right. And so what I'm trained at through my residency and my board certification process is not only what you can do, but what not to do.
Okay.
That would interfere. And the bottom line is this: 90% of patients are going on the internet that have cancer, and they're saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and these herbs and that, and they're not telling their oncologist about it.
Wow.
So who do you want them to go to, the internet or somebody who's actually
Right.
trained in this?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I talked to a lung cancer specialist, an oncologist, not too long ago, and he goes, so you like have them change their diet and take some supplements and herbs and like exercise? I said, yeah. And he goes, people aren't going to do that. I said, not true. 20% of the population, what the stats show is 20% of the population want to be involved in their care and empower themselves to take charge.
I think once you get cancer, you start to listen a little better.
absolutely.
I mean, because I do see people that,
Yeah.
change their diet,
Yes.
and all of a sudden their radar's up because, for the first time they're facing their mortality. So all of a
Absolutely.
sudden they have an invested interest. So then, okay, so that's phase 2, and then what comes next?
So once we get them through their treatment protocol, and some of them are in remission and some are not in remission, we go into what we call survivorship. So those that are in remission, we want to keep them in remission. So we don't just send them home to do what they were doing before, and now they've learned all these new things, they've lost weight, they have energy, they're excited to get on with their lives. But we want to make sure...
Hopefully they don't think, well, I got a free pass, now I can go off the diet.
Not my patients. They're there to empower themselves, and this is hard work.
Sure,
Taking care of the
absolutely.
vehicle through which you experience your life, you get one, and it's a lot of work. Even Steve Jobs, the richest man on earth, couldn't buy another one.
Right.
Okay, you don't take care of your car, you buy another one. You don't take care of your body, you don't get another one. So my patients are very empowered, and the research shows those who take charge of their health through cancer do better. It doesn't even matter what they do. It's the empowerment piece, the psychological
wow.
empowerment,
Okay.
feeling like I can help myself.
Getting out of victim mode. Like, I'm
Exactly.
a victim, fix me. or
Everybody's doing something to
to me. Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So,
that's
and they're
awesome.
excited when they get done to, I've lost weight, I feel better, I can get up the stairs at work, I can now roll on the floor with my grandchildren. They're motivated to stay well. And so they do continue to come back. First year, they usually come back. The first quarter, they come back once a month. After that, they come back once a quarter. And then once we get them through that first year, it's 1 or 2 times a year.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, how can people find you?
CynthiaBy.com.
CynthiaBy.com.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that your website?
That's my
Oh,
website.
okay. Because the name of your clinic is in Vancouver, Washington.
Correct.
And it's
Journey to Wellness.
Journey to Wellness.
Yeah, and I'm in Vancouver, just over the bridge, not that far from downtown Portland.
And people get this show all over Portland, metro, and outlying areas.
Great.
So this is going to be a great service. Thank you so much for joining me
It's
today.
my pleasure.
Thanks.
Anything we can do to bring naturopathic medicine to more people.
I'm with you. I'm the best cheerleader for that.
Okay, great.
Thank you for watching Inspired Conversations. I'm Diane. We'll be back for another show soon. Stay tuned.